Hey everyone, I am back today to talk about the books that I read in 2017. I decided to do the end of the year reading survey. I'm not totally sure who created this, but I'll find out and link it in the description below. But basically, it's a bunch of questions about books you read in 2017. So the first question is, how many books did you read and did you reach your goal? I ended up reading 26 books and my goal was 25 books, so that was great. I did meet my goal. A few of those kind of were novellas and short books, but I'm counting it. To me, that's totally fine and acceptable. Next question is your most read genre. I would have to say like sci-fi fantasy. I was looking through my books on Goodreads and I couldn't really say if I read fantasy more than sci-fi or the other way, because some books are kind of both. So that was definitely my most read genre, YA, sci-fi, fantasy. The longest and shortest books you read, well, it's kind of tricky because the shortest book I read was Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but I actually listened to that on audiobook along with my longest book I read, which was Winter by Marissa Meyer. I also listened to on audiobook. So those are like technically my longest and shortest. For the longest and shortest physical books I read, the shortest was The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton and the longest was Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. My favorite book published in 2017, I'd have to say Lord of Shadows. I actually didn't love Lord of Shadows as much as I was expecting to. It just didn't get 5 stars for me, but for books published in 2017, that one was probably my favorite. Favorite debut book in 2017, I only read 2 debut books, I believe, and that was The Takedown by Corey Wang and The Reader by Tracy Chee. I really enjoyed both of those. The Reader I listened to on audiobook, and while I thought the story was really great, I loved how it came together in the end. I didn't really love the audiobook format of it. I thought it was too confusing. The Takedown I did read a physical copy of, and I liked that one as well. They're very, very different books. Well, The Takedown is more of a contemporary. It is kind of set in the future with more futuristic technology, but not too far in the future. That one kind of has to do with cyberbullying and just kind of bullying in general and just high school friendships and that kind of thing. Whereas The Reader by Tracy Chee was just totally fantasy. It's about this girl that lives in a world where there are no books or written words. So it was really fascinating. I did rate The Takedown higher than The Reader, so I guess The Takedown, but I did really like the concept of The Reader and it was a really cool story. So I don't know, that one's hard to pick. Favorite book not published this year was probably When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. That one is actually a nonfiction book, and I actually read 2 nonfiction books last year, which I'm really proud of myself because before that I hadn't really read any and I really loved both of them. But I'd have to say When Breath Becomes Air was probably the best book I read last year. It was absolutely astounding and beautiful and emotional. It was just so powerful and so good. I loved it so much. A book that lived up to the hype, I would have to say Winter by Marissa Meyer. I love the Lunar Chronicles series. I was so happy to complete it in 2017, but also kind of sad. Winter and that whole series to me just completely lived up to the hype. I love it so much. Those books are absolutely fantastic. A book that did not live up to the hype, I'd have to say The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. This one didn't really have any hype from the book community, but I kind of hyped it up myself a little bit because I love Amy Engel's other books. The Book of Ivy and The Revolution of Ivy, that duology is absolutely amazing, and she came out with this adult book, The Roanoke Girls, and I didn't read the summary of it before going into it because I just wanted to be surprised, and actually it really it disappointed me. I didn't love it. It is a mystery book and I love mystery books. It's set in a small town. I love small town settings, so it kind of had all this stuff going for it for me, but the plot took a really disturbing turn and I kind of saw it coming, but at the same time I was just I don't like reading about this. The main character was really good and I still think it was well written. I just didn't like the material and it just, I don't know, it just bothered me and I didn't love it like I was hoping I would. Book that felt like the biggest accomplishment, I would have to say Winter. Well, stars above, because to me that's actually really completing the series. Just completing the Lunar Chronicles series. I'd been wanting to do that. That was one of my goals for 2017 and I did it, and so I'm so happy about that and loved the series so much. Favorite character? That is so hard. I want to pick a character from the Lunar Chronicles series because they're all my loves. Maybe Winter. I love her so much. I love them all. I don't know, I can't really say. which one out of them is my favorite, but I'd have to say one of them. Most shocking book / moment. Lord of Shadows had a really crazy ending, and so did The Dark Days Pact by Alison Goodman. It was the sequel to The Dark Days Club. I read that one a few months ago. That one had a pretty shocking ending and some pretty interesting twists throughout. And of course, Winter was really just heart-pounding and exciting throughout most of the book. So, favorite couple / OTP, Cress and Thorn. Oh my goodness, they are so cute. I think they're my favorite couple from the series. Of course, it's really, really hard to pick, but I think they're my favorite and I love them so much, and I just can't even with that whole series. Best written book you read this year? As I said, When Breath Becomes Air was like my favorite, so I have to say that one. Book that you pushed the most people to read in 2017? Probably When Breath Becomes Air. Suggested that one to people like in my real life, to people on YouTube, in the book community. I am in pharmacy school, and the book is surrounded by like the medical field. The Paul Kalanithi, who it's kind of like his life story. He was a neurosurgeon, so there's a lot of like medical and science talk and about, you know, how medical professionals interact with patients and vice versa. So I thought it was really applicable to my studies and as well as my friends that are in school with me, so I recommended it to them because of that as well, and because it's an amazing book. But I feel like I'm just talking about the same books over and over. I read 26 books, so I don't really have a huge group of books to pick from. Favorite book cover of the year? I might have to say Clicked by Tamara Ireland Stone. This is a middle grade book, but I love how bright and pretty the book cover is, and it totally ties into the book perfectly. I loved that book as well. It was super good. Favorite adaptation? Well, I think I only read 2 books this year that have movies. One of them being Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and I loved that movie so much. I really want to rewatch it. I haven't read the screenplay yet. I want to read the screenplay version of the book and rewatch the movie because it was so good. I loved it. But then I also read The Outsiders, and that has a movie with it. I really enjoyed the book and movie as well. What book made you cry the most? Probably When Breath Becomes Air. It's not exactly a happy story. The ending is really sad. I mean, you know the ending already because, I mean, it's this man's life story, but it was really emotional. What book made you laugh the most? I might have to say The Dark Days Pact by Alison Goodman. It was really a dark book, but there were some really funny moments between the main character and kind of her like love interest. That was pretty funny. It wasn't necessarily a comedic book, it just had some funny parts. I don't know, I didn't really read too many like lighthearted funny books this year. I can't think of another one that really made me laugh. A new favorite author you discovered this year? Or a new author that I found, Nicola Yoon. I hadn't read her books before this year, and this year I listened to The Sun Is Also a Star on audiobook and loved it so much. That was a really beautiful story. I still haven't read everything, but I plan to. Guilty pleasure read of the year. I really didn't read any sort of kind of guilty pleasure books, which I never really feel guilty about reading any books, but I would have to say maybe like By Your Side by Casey West. It's just one of the like fluffier books I read this year. Love contemporary book, but it still did have some depth to it. But I enjoyed it. It was so good. I love Casey West books, as y'all know. Favorite book you reread this year? Didn't reread any books. I've never reread a book. A goal for 2018 maybe is to reread one book. I decided to maybe say like a book that I read that was from one of my favorite authors. So I read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. It was the last book I read this year. And to me, it's not really rereading, but I've read all of his books, and so it was kind of like jumping back into his writing, which I hadn't read in years because the last book I read by him was The Fault in Our Stars, and I read it like literally the month or maybe the month after it came out, so that was a long time ago. So it was very like nostalgic to read his writing again, and I remembered like why I love it so much. And Turtles All the Way Down, I didn't give it a full 5 stars. I still really love his writing, and his writing just kind of speaks to me, but Turtles All the Way Down, to me it didn't like totally blow me out the water, but I still thought it was a very important and meaningful story that I really enjoyed. Last question, were you happy with your reading year? What will you do different in 2018? I said at the beginning, I'm really happy that I reached my goal of the number of books I wanted to read, and yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with my reading year. In my last video, I talked about a bunch of my goals for 2018, so I'm not gonna bore you and repeat them again, but I would like to read 30 books this year, just a little bit more, just to kind of keep challenging myself, and I would like to take more time out to read, not necessarily like Like, I'm not trying to read a ton of books, but just let myself spend 30 minutes to an hour a day reading and not feel guilty about it. You know, like when I'm in school, if I'm doing anything other than schoolwork or studying, I can kind of feel guilty because I'm like, I should be spending this time studying even if I've studied a ton. But I want to just, you know, be a little more lenient on myself and allow myself time every day to read because it's something I love to do. And so far this year I've been doing that. So yeah, I'm really excited for 2018 and all of the amazing books that are coming out this year, and I hope you are having a great 2018 so far. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your answers to these questions in the comments below. What were some of your favorite books that you read in 2017? I will link any reviews I have to books that I mentioned, so if you want to know more of my thoughts on them, yeah, I will see y'all soon. Bye.